Misery. Any person in this world has experienced misery. People who have lived the most extraordinary, outstanding lives, loving in their nature, have their moments when all of a sudden there's misery. With myself, every single day that I have existed in this world, every single day I have moments of misery. Now you might think of misery as that you're down on yourself, or your relationship with somebody isn't good, or you're physically sick and it causes you painful misery, or your mind is troubled and it causes you misery. Misery by itself has one solution, no matter what's causing it. Physical sickness, troublesome feelings about yourself. All of them, no matter what they are, have one answer. Misery exists because you're missing something. If you can recover that something that you're missing, misery fades. So what is this something? Well, now we're going to have to look at how you think of yourself. Because every misery comes from the way you have decided to look at a circumstance, another person, at yourself, or at God. It is a decision on your part to feel what you're feeling instead of looking for what can resolve it. Now, it's not a criticism of you. I'm not criticizing. What's happening is that you simply don't know how to be able to resolve it. That's all that it is. It's a matter of ignorance, of unawareness of where the solution is. And that is the worst misery of all, to feel that you don't have an answer of how to overcome whatever it is that's plaguing you. Oh, that is killing. I know that killing aspect, because for years and years and years with myself, until I learned that there was a way of coming out of it, I couldn't find the way that came out of it. Oh, I had little band-aids that I could use. But there was a part of me that just did not know, and I frankly didn't know that I didn't know. That's how serious it was, that the answers were not coming. And I could not understand why I didn't have the answers, except somehow or other I knew there had to be an answer somewhere, and I kept looking for it. But finally I got to the point where I now knew, when that feeling of misery hits, what I need to do to lift myself out of it. It came. And it came as part of spirituality, and it came as part of who I think that I am. Misery occurs when you don't know who you really are. And let me tell you bluntly who you really are. You are the child of God. You are the child of a God who is totally, completely, absolutely, impeccably loving. God has made you to be a loving being and a lovable being. And when you're in that state of mind in which you are aware that this is the truth of you, you are in a state of peace, of bliss, of joy, of fulfillment. You can fill in the words that you want. Nothing is bothering you. Nothing is bothering you. God can deliver this state of mind no matter what the issue is. And this state of mind, this peaceful, blissful state, this fulfilling state, tells you the answer of how to handle things that can range from physical ailments to troubled minds to circumstances of the world, because you know that God has the answer and He wishes, or she wishes, to deliver that answer to you. God wants to deliver the answer. God wants to show you how to handle that state of misery. And once I found that out, once I knew this, what I do is that I go to God when I become aware that I have lost that state of bliss, contentment, freedom, unworried, at peace. When I become aware that I have lost it, I now know, God has taught me, a poke, a nudge. Robert, let me have this. Come back to me. And I will pray at that point. Beloved Lord, my own addressing of God is through Mary and Jesus, because that's what God showed me, that's how He wanted me, and she wanted me to see God's identity in this world. But whatever your identity is, remember, you can go to pray to the God of your religion, of your denomination, whatever it is. Mine, it's Mary and Jesus, because God showed me this, wants me to go that direction, and I do. Mother Mary, Jesus, I hand myself to you. I want only to feel right now the way you want me to feel. Or, to be specific, Mother Mary and Jesus, I'm down on myself. I want you as me rather than me as me, because you don't get down on yourself. And you're one with me. You're inside me. And I want that portion of myself that feels this oneness with you, that when God created me to be loving, to be lovable, to feel the joy of the spiritual creation which God made me to be. And so all of these human things of being down on yourself, being down on others, uh, the circumstances that we feel are threatening to us are strictly of this human circumstance. And God knows how to be able to solve all of these circumstances. God will deliver the answer that returns you to the state of peace, and you know how to be able to handle it, because you now feel God as you. You ask, Lord, take over. Want you. Do me, whatever it might be. And God steps in and does this. And out of nowhere, you feel it lifting. Maybe it's a little bit, and you need it more. You'll pray it again, and a little more. You'll pray it again. Misery is the absence of the awareness of your godly being and its complete and total peace in God. That God has made you to be able to feel that godliness of the Creator, which has no misery in it, and is just a totality of peace. A totality of peace. Misery is the absence of feeling that. Because when you don't feel who you truly are and who you're connected to, you have such a feeling of aloneness, of non-belonging, of isolation, of not caring or cared for. It's a terrible, terrible feeling. And that's what's behind the misery. It just can be caused by a lot of things. Troubled mind, sickened body. It can be caused by all kinds of things. But the misery part is that you don't feel the solution because you don't feel who you truly are, and God's presence there to lift you out of this false state that you've gone into. Now, the fourth ladder of Notes Divine. Hopefully you're familiar with it, but if not, let me tell you what it is. The Footladder of Notes Divine is found on our website, Christian Laity, Laity, LaityFoundation.org. And it's part of the Footladder of Notes Divine, which are dictations by God to me of this healing curriculum that have gone on for some 13 years now. And this is number 469. It's verse number 469 of the Footladder of Notes Divine. And because we've gone into this explanation now, I can do this with you and show God talking to us about this. Here goes God. He refers immediately to the possibility of being blissful. He doesn't want to feel around with this misery thing first. He's assuring you there's something blissful. Blissful will thee be from fulfillment of me. I will bring you bliss. That's my job. It's my job to bring you the sense of fulfillment within yourself that comes from me. You can't do it. What a relief. I used to struggle with this, believing that I had to do these, after all, doctor of psychology and all. And finally I learned the spiritual aspect of what healing is, that God delivers it. I only have to be willing to get open to what could possibly do it. I don't even have to know what does it. I only have to be open and say, Lord, Mother, whatever. Doesn't make any difference. I'll read the line again. Blissful will thee be from fulfillment of me. And now God, after he tells you that this is what you can do, you bring it to me and I'll bring you that blissful state. Only after he tells you that does he now go further. And he states, if you're tarred, T-A-R-R-E-D, from your earthly mindset, when you're tarred with the mind of the human being, you're being willful to a train of thought. You're insisting on a train of thought that is neglectful of you. You are now into a state of neglecting who you truly are. If you're going to listen to these earthly kinds of thoughts, of themes, of actions, if you're going to listen to it, you are now into a state of neglect of yourself. You are neglecting who you truly are, and down you go. Now it goes further. God says, you're not meant to do this. Meant not to be this earthly strain. It's not meant to be. He's telling you, I am your fulfillment, and in me, that doesn't exist. Meant not to be this earthly strain on ourself, which is actually a fantasy. He says it in a fancy poetical way, meant not to be this earthly strain that copulates with fantasy forms, that all of your misery is a fantasy that you have invented, not of God, because you have moved away from God, have no answers, and now your human mind keeps thinking it's human form, and you're in trouble from it. And then God reminds you again, made for me are thee with noble bearing. Do you see yourself as being of noble bearing? Do you see that? Do you see the noble bearing? I guess we don't go along so much seeing this until God can show it to you. But you must be willing to overcome that misery by letting God have a shot at you, at which point he shows you your noble bearing. That's what he did with me. He took me out of this world, and I saw this self, this consciousness, which didn't have a single kind of problem with it. Not a single kind. Nothing. It's just at peace. Bliss. At peace. Now I knew it existed, and God showed me how to be able to get there, and we're talking about that. Just, you have to have a willingness to let this be overcome by God. we're going to go further. God says, enhanced will your life now become. That you'll have a noble glow about it. Talking with that word noble, because you are noble. We're all noble. We're the noble child of God. Fantasizing that we're not. Fantasizing that we're not. We are the noble child of God in a fantasy that we're really human and not spirit beings. And therefore, we have lost our contact with God by wanting to be something different than what we truly are. And we blank out what we truly are. We just blank it out. God goes further. Willing be thee. Be willing to make over your mind that gains the presence of me in a silent state, moored, M-O-O-R-E-D. And if you're willing to become silent, if you're willing to let me make over, and you offer yourself to God, Lord, I offer myself to you for whatever it is that you feel that you want to do. Or Lord, here, help yourself to me, whatever you would like to do. If you can moor yourself in that silent state of just simply waiting, and you let God make over the consciousness that you can be aware of, you regain the presence of God, and misery is gone. Misery becomes gone at that point. Misery is only a state of absence of the presence of God. Pain, anxiety, depression, all things disappear when you say, here, Lord, help yourself. Because none of that is present in God's mind. None of it is there in God's mind. So that's all that there can be. That's all it can be, and that's the healing for any kind of misery, relationships, whatever. God will show you how to handle every single thing. Everything. Everything. Do you follow this, folks? Now, it doesn't mean that because you hear, at least I'm telling you where this comes from. We would have to talk more about prayer life and all in order, and these certainly exist on our YouTube channel here. They exist. You would have to be able now to be willing to practice it. And you might need a support group. And again, it may be within your church, or some friends are spiritually oriented and want to come together in a group. Some way or other, or contact us. We're willing to be able to listen and try to help you with how misery gets healed. And you can find our email on our website. Do you follow this? At least you know now misery is resolvable. It means going to God in order to let God lead you out of it and show you how to handle the circumstance or the relationship that you're in God's way, and you're lifted because now you belong. You're not alone, and you feel the loving aspects of yourself. And misery doesn't exist there. Hope it's helpful to you. Thank you.